Hey everyone and welcome. If you're on an IVF journey, you already know it's a world filled with all sorts of new terms and really crucial steps. Well, today, we're going to zoom in on a superstar hormone that can honestly make all the difference. Let's dive right into the world of progesterone. After all the appointments, the medications, and the procedures, the single biggest hurdle in IVF often comes down to one thing: getting that precious embryo to stick, to implant successfully. So, what's the secret ingredient that turns the uterus into a welcoming home? That's exactly what we're about to find out.
And here it is, meet progesterone. It's a completely natural hormone, and its main gig is to get the uterus perfectly prepped for an embryo. I love this analogy. Think of it as the ultimate nest builder. It makes the uterine lining thick, cozy, and full of nutrients. Basically, the five-star hotel an embryo is looking for to check in and grow.
And get this, the name itself tells you everything you need to know. Progesterone literally means for gestation, or you could say supporting pregnancy. Its whole purpose is right there in its name, which I think is pretty cool and shows you just how vital it really is.
Okay, so during an IVF cycle, your body might not be making quite enough progesterone on its own. That's why it's almost always supplemented. But how do you actually get this crucial hormone into your system? Well, it turns out there are a few different paths you can take, so let's break them down.
So, the three main ways are injections, vaginal forms, and oral pills. First up, injections. They go right into the muscle, which is great for getting really steady, consistent hormone levels in your blood. The con, they're daily, and, let's be honest, they can be a bit painful. Then you've got the vaginal route, using gels or suppositories. The big pro here is that it delivers the hormone directly to the uterus, right where you want it. The downside is that it can be a little messy. And finally, oral pills. These are, by far, the easiest to take, but the trade-off is that your body doesn't absorb as much of the hormone this way.
And of course, each method has its own set of potential side effects. But don't worry, they're usually pretty mild and totally manageable. With injections, it's pretty normal to have some soreness or even little lumps where you do the shot. For the vaginal options, you might notice some mild irritation or a bit of discharge. And with oral progesterone, it's not uncommon to feel a little drowsy, bloated, or even a bit moody. It's all just good stuff to be aware of.
Now, since the injections can be a real point of anxiety for a lot of people, here are a few pro tips to make them way more comfortable. First, try warming the oil by just rolling the vial between your hands for a minute. This helps it flow more smoothly. You can also numb the area with an ice pack for a few minutes beforehand. It works wonders. And this is a big one. Try to relax the muscle before the injection. Tensing up makes it worse. And always rotate your injection sites so you're not poking the same spot every day.
So, the main takeaway here is that there's no single best method that works for everyone. The choice is really a team decision you make with your doctor. It's all about what you're comfortable with, what your medical history looks like, and even things like potential allergies to the oils used in the injections, which can sometimes be peanut or sesame oil. It's all about finding the perfect fit for you.
Now, while progesterone is definitely the star of the show, it doesn't work in a vacuum. A successful implantation is more like a beautifully conducted symphony, and it requires a really delicate balance with a few other key hormones.
Its most important dance partner is estrogen. Think of it like this. Estrogen is the builder. In the first part of your cycle, its job is to build up and thicken the uterine lining. Then, after ovulation, progesterone comes in as the stabilizer. It matures that lining, locks everything in place, and makes it super receptive. They are a true dynamic duo.
And that balance between them is absolutely crucial. If your estrogen levels are too high without enough progesterone to balance them out, something people sometimes call estrogen dominance, that lining can actually become unstable or just not develop the way it needs to. This is exactly why your clinic monitors your hormone levels so carefully, to make sure everything is in perfect harmony. Another key player working behind the scenes is your thyroid. Your thyroid hormones are kind of like the body's master regulators. If your thyroid is underactive, a condition known as hypothyroidism, it can actually mess with ovulation. And if ovulation is off, your body won't produce enough progesterone on its own. That's why fertility clinics will almost always check your TSH, or thyroid-stimulating hormone, levels from the get-go.
And finally, let's talk about stress. This is fascinating. When you're constantly stressed out, your body is pumping out the stress hormone, cortisol. Well, it turns out that both cortisol and progesterone are made from the same raw material, a master hormone called pregnenolone. So, if your body is always screaming for more cortisol to deal with stress, it can basically steal the building blocks that would have been used to make progesterone.
It's a real biological pathway that shows how stress can directly affect your fertility hormones.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, from what progesterone does to how it plays with all the other hormones in the system. So let's wrap this all up with your empowerment toolkit. These are the key things you'll want to remember from our little chat today. All right, first, just remember that progesterone's #1 job is creating that perfect, welcoming home for an embryo. Second, the best way to take it, injection, vaginal, or oral, is a totally personal decision you make with your doctor. Third, consistency is everything. Try your best to take your dose at the same time every single day. Now, if you do miss a dose, please don't panic. It is not a disaster, but do call your clinic right away to see what they want you to do. And lastly, remember that progesterone is a team player. Its balance with estrogen, thyroid hormones, and even your stress hormones is vital.
You know, just understanding the why behind each step of this process can be so incredibly empowering. It really changes things from just following a list of instructions to being an active, knowledgeable partner in your own journey. So, I guess the real question is, after all this, are you feeling a little more prepared?
Now, please remember, all of this information is purely for educational purposes. It is not in any way a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always, always consult with your doctor. For more information on the complete IVF process, you can visit ivfforme.com.